Okay, everyone, good afternoon and welcome to this really exciting session that we have today with the wonderful Paul James, the Innovation Director from Savient Limited. Paul was one of our keynote speakers at our conference. He actually opened conference with this session all around artificial intelligence. And for anyone watching this back, if you came to conference, you can already appreciate that it's moved on significantly from then. And so has Paul's presentation, which is great. He's also added in some new bits and pieces as well. So if you have watched this session, you're playing it back, please have a look because there's some new content in here. If you haven't watched this session, be prepared because it's a fantastic insight into the world of artificial intelligence, and it's an amazing opportunity to see how the artificial intelligence can be the best assistant for an assistant. So, Paul, it's wonderful to welcome you today. Thank you so much for joining us, and I'll hand over to you now. Thank you.
Hi, afternoon, everyone. Hopefully you can all see my presentation on the screen. Excellent. So, artificial intelligence, the future of business support. Well, as I said at the conference, the quick answer is yes, but don't be scared. So let's dive into some of the. So the agenda for today is we'll go over why me, why you should actually listen to me when there's so many experts on AI. An overview of AI, some of the benefits of it, some of the concerns, and then some practical examples of actually using it, with time for Q&A at the end and possibly even live demonstration if the products cooperate with me. So why me? So I've got over 25 years in software development, and that is helping people solve real world problems, not just tinker for fun. Currently, I'm an innovation director where my role is to understand how to make the most out of new technology, both internally for Savient, our internal product stuff, and for our clients. And Savient is a software consultancy and a product company, so we've got both of those things. And we've got expertise in big data, which is one of the things that underpins AI at the moment. And we've got products like SavvyTrace and Conveno that actually use some of these sort of techniques and AI tools that we're going to be talking about today. So an overview of AI. So AI at the moment is what's called generative AI, and that is artificial intelligence that can create new content. And it does that by learning from existing data and then uses that to generate new things that are as you would expect them to be, not necessarily as they should be, which we can get onto a bit later. So predictive text on your phone is one very early example of the type of AI used by LLMs, which are large language models. So things like ChatGPT and Bard are specifically designed to generate text. And they're trained on large data sets like books, articles, websites, basically anything the AI can get their hands on. And what they do is they use that to basically make things that sound plausible. And that's one of the things to be aware of when you're using it. But this is just the beginning. There is a lot of hype at the moment, lots of news stories, new products all the time. So we are just at the beginning of what is possible. So this is like the early days of email or spreadsheets. If you get in now and try and sort of learn things as they go, get ahead of the game, then you will be well positioned to take advantage of this for you and your businesses. Some of the benefits: artificial intelligence doesn't replace human intelligence, it augments it. But it can be used for natural language interaction, so you can type as you would speak into tools and they'll give you real answers. It's quite good at searching information, copywriting, so whether that's marketing or writing difficult emails. Sometimes I struggle with getting the tone quite right, or some things like that, and artificial intelligence has helped me in my day job for that. Translation, obviously, it's quite good at languages, so translating between, whether that be sort of Chinese or French, translating between different languages is quite good. It is quite good at fact finding and summarization, so you can feed it massive PDFs of things and it will summarize it for you, or even summarizing meeting notes or just transcribing sort of meetings. It's good at that. As you can see in the bottom right, sort of recently reported, I think it was this week, that ChatGPT diagnosed the cause of a child's chronic pain after 17 doctors failed to do so, just by spotting the kind of things that it doesn't get bored or get sort of distracted by other details. It just knew everything, was able to give a diagnosis that then the family went to a specialist in that area and got the diagnosis confirmed. So it isn't just hallucinating or making things up. It's actually, benefiting it when people know how to use it best, which is what we hopefully go over in this session here. But there are lots of concerns. Will it take my job? How can I share information without it being private? What about things like bias and accountability and safety? So, as you can see from some of these headlines, earlier on this year, Samsung workers accidentally leaked trade secrets via ChatGPT. So ChatGPT does not keep things private. It says in its terms and conditions that it can use things that you type into it to help it train and get better. So that means that you have to be careful about what you type in. Don't say, I have a problem with Bob and Bob does this. You can say, write me an email about an employee who exhibits this behavior. Don't type personal information into it or company confidential information into it. So basically, if you're happy talking about it on a bus with people you've never seen before, then you're probably okay to type it into ChatGPT. But the other thing about sort of the bias and accountability is ChatGPT, you've probably heard it in the news talk about things like hallucinations. That's basically a posh word for making things up. The AI, as it stands at the moment, the sort of generative AI, it's not trying to give you the right answer. It's trying to give you what is a plausible answer, something that sounds like it could come from a human. There are a couple of ways you can sort of help it, but it's not going to be doing your job for you. There is a lot of sort of checking and fact checking and just basically checking it hasn't just made things up, especially if you're asking it specific questions about law or HR or policy. Always make sure that to give it citations and other links that you can check later on. And then Rachel Thomas, PhD, I think down the bottom there, has a lot of content about how you can implement machine learning responsibly, especially because people like, I dare say, healthcare data, sort of, I dare say, insurance companies are starting to use it. How can you do it responsibly so it doesn't just either amplify or build in biases that are unconscious, or because it's the data it's been trained on is electronic data. So obviously there's a poverty bias there. Only people who've been able to have access to the internet and generally sort of have language skills good enough to type things into areas where they gather their data from can be represented by this. So there's a quite an emphasis, I think, now on responsible AI. I know the government has just announced a conference to discuss it later on, I think early next year. But it is something to be aware of if you're using it yourself, that it is only trained on publicly available data. So the biases in that publicly available data may be carried forward into the output that you get. Again, privacy, to dig in deeper a bit into this, I had a quick look. As you can see on the right-hand side there, X, which used to be Twitter, its privacy policy has been updated. And it explicitly says there, we may use the information we collect and publicly available information to help train our machine learning and artificial intelligence models. So that's available in quite a few places. So if it's publicly available information, it's probably going to be used to train AI models. But things like ChatGPT Enterprise, which is in the top right, There is no public pricing on that. I had a look. You have to contact a sales representative if you want to use that in the enterprise. My guess is not cheap, but they've actually said explicitly they do not train on your business data or conversations, and our models don't learn from your usage. And also there it's SOC 2 compliant, and they're all conversations are encrypted in transit and at rest. So companies are starting to think about it, with the other one being Bing Chat Enterprise, or sort of Microsoft 365 Copilot, which is Microsoft's answer. So Microsoft bought OpenAI, it's using it, and it's trying to use it over your data as well. So that's the thing that's coming next. It's only in public preview at the moment. It's not an officially launched product, but if you've got SharePoint or OneDrive and documents in there, along with other sort of places that you store it for Teams and Outlook and all those kind of things, it's going to start using that data if you're willing to pay £30 per user per month on top of your Microsoft license. So at the moment, Bing Chat Enterprise is there, which is similar to ChatGPT. That is something that we in Savient as a small company do have sort of on our sort of data at the moment. So you can chat and not have your chat recorded, which might be enough for some of your companies and organizations to allow you to use it for slightly more sensitive conversations you may have with it. But how do you use it? So communication is the key to using AI, and you do this already. Understanding complex tasks and communicating key information is a core skill of business support professionals. It's generally what one of the core things you have to do. Distilling an hour meeting or a strategy document for your executives, having to be clear and concise and precise with your language. That's how AI works best. And so you're already one step ahead of the general population in this. And how you talk to these kind of chatbots or LLMs is something they're now determining as prompt engineering. So how you do that is, one, you frame it. So as you can see on the top right, there's another cheat sheet there. So basically framing it means you tell it what role you want it to play. So whether you want it to be an executive assistant or an HR professional or a copywriter with years of experience or a teacher, however you want to do it, you can tell it how to behave. Be specific. The OpenAI guidelines on this, which you can see on the bottom right, there's best practices for prompt engineering with OpenAI. It's on their website, publicly available, so you can check it out afterwards. Is less fluffy language. So be very specific about what you want and how you want it. You can optionally give it context. So you can train it to say, this is my writing, write like me. That is something you can do with it. Or you can just say, I would like the output to be friendly but professional, or any other sort of combination of words that you want to give it sort of context or around what you want to be produced. And it is a conversation. Feel free to ask for more information, clarification, or to try again. You can say, oh, I didn't mean that. Can you add this in? And it will remember what you've done so far from the previous elements of the session. So it's not just a one-shot thing. You can actually sort of refine it and get it better at what you want to do over time. But these prompt engineers, these tools, it's just one tool. So use everything that you need to. If you need to run stuff into ChatGPT first and then put it somewhere else and then take it back again and then put it into Word and type it and get it to do its editor preferences and then put it back in, it's just one tool in your arsenal. It's not the silver bullet. It's not the answer. So on to some practical things now. So one of the things you can do on prompt engineering was give it some framing. And in ChatGPT now you can do these things called custom instructions. So they're there. I'll show you how to get to them later on if you want in the live demonstration. But the one I used for the chat you'll see in a minute is on the far right of this screen. So I basically says, so at the top it says, what would you like ChatGPT to know about you to produce better responses? So for these examples, I said, I'm an executive assistant at a company that provides financial services to businesses. I focus on supporting the senior company executives with administrative and strategic support. So it's just a little bit of a prompt for it. And then how would you like it to respond? So I said, respond in a straightforward and concise manner, being specific, helpful, and professional. Keep responses factual. If you make something up or give your opinion, then clearly state so. That helps with the hallucinations that we mentioned earlier. And I said, elaborate on your reasoning and cite sources and links as footnotes. And where possible, offer alternative approaches or optimizations. So you can see there's lots of room to play with these. And if you type custom instructions or prompt engineering into Google, there will be there's a whole Reddit thread on sort of custom instructions and prompt engineering. There are plenty of websites giving you, and even LinkedIn articles about these kind of things. But try it, have a go, see what kind of thing. One of the things you can do is, once you've got a successful chat conversation in ChatGPT, you can ask it to, what prompts would I have typed in to make this effective, or how could I have got this in one shot? And ChatGPT can actually answer those things for you. So always try and remember you can use these tools to teach you how to use these tools, which is something that you find difficult in other areas. So I did some research. One of the tools is very good at it. And I've got now comparisons between 3 of the main free tools on the market. I always pick the free ones because trying to persuade executives to spend money on anything, let alone helping assistants out, is quite difficult. So I tried, so there's ChatGPT, Bard, which is from Google, and then a new one called Claude, which is meant to be more ethical, it says in its output, but I tried them all. So for this one, you probably know who Lucy Brazier is, but who is Lucy Brazier? So ChatGPT gave me a nice summary with 2 links. Got it right first time, one shot. Great, thank you very much. That was quite good. Bard didn't do very well on this one. For the same prompt, it just said, as a language model, I'm not able to assist you with that, which wasn't very good. I wasn't impressed at that one. Normally, Bard's been pretty good for me, but this week it wasn't. So then I just put in a different phrase. So who wrote the modern day assistant, build your influence and boost your potential, which only has one author, which was exactly correct. But again, the Bard is slightly more up to date because it can reach out to the internet, whereas ChatGPT can't in its default form. It's stuck at about September last year. So that was pretty good. Claude thought it was going to be the British Conservative Party politician. But as you can see here on the right, I typed in a clarification. I said, I meant the CEO of March and Publishing. So this was a conversation with it. And it did come back and go, all right, all this information is here. Again, generally it seems to be plucked from their website with not a lot about her involvement in other things or why she had an OBE or other things like that. So it is quite limited, but it does provide you some background about people, and you can dig into them. So if you are trying to find out for, who's turning up to a meeting or what company is trying to contact you, then sometimes these kind of things are quite good at that. The other thing I did was, as you may have found, sort of onboarding things, you might have to do schedules for things. So I asked all 3 of these to create an induction plan for a new business support assistant. The plan should cover the first 2 weeks in the role and should cover role and company induction in a logical order and be presented as a bulleted list with explanation and detail where necessary. So that's making this quite specific again. So you can be as specific as you want. And then if you can see it very well on the screen here, obviously you can try it yourself afterwards. So this is ChatGPT. It gave me quite a good 2-week plan. So orientation for the first day, company structure and policies for day 2, role-specific training for day 3, communication and collaboration on day 4, administrative tasks on day 5. Then obviously, because it knows, so ChatGPT knows that I work for financial services, because I put into the custom instructions earlier. Day 1 of week 2 was a financial services overview. And it also remembered that I the company did business with other businesses. So day 7 was a client interaction. How to interact with clients, including etiquette, professionalism, and confidentiality, and a review of client communication templates and guidelines. So I found that quite, I didn't have to remember to type it in for every chat. It does remember it for me. So it's only been out in the last few weeks, I think. But yeah, custom instructions are pretty powerful for ChatGPT. And then throughout both weeks, it says encouraged to ask questions, seek clarification. And then at the bottom, there's a couple of employee onboarding guidelines that it sort of linked me to. So that's where I said in the custom instructions to give me references in the footnotes, it's actually done so. So I thought that was actually quite comprehensive and enough to get me started. It's that kind of, once you've got a blank page, it's very difficult to go from a blank page to something, but having something presented by AI, going from this to something more interesting is something that just gives you quite a leg up and can save you quite a lot of time. I tried it with Bard. Again, exactly the same prompt, but it sort of cheated. Days 1 to 5 were okay. Days 6 to 14 was a little bit weak. I didn't bother going through the kind of, the additional steps of, can you make it a little bit better for me or not? But yeah, so days 6 to 14 was just do more stuff. And I thought that was a little bit weak. But days 1 to 5 seemed to be okay. And again, it did give me some extra tips on creating a good induction plan that's here on the bottom right. So it was okay. But obviously, I found that particular questions and particular phrasing does work better in one tool over the other. So when I was doing the preparation for the Learning and Development Conference, Bard was giving me much better responses to all of the questions they asked it than any of the others. Bard has now been my least favorite one, and ChatGPT has given me the best ones at the moment. So don't be afraid to try and to say this isn't very good and try something else. Claude was very similar to, is a little bit in between ChatGPT and Bard. Isn't quite laid out as nicely as ChatGPT was either. Sort of like the bullets aren't indented, so it took me a little bit more reading to get the idea of this one. But again, they were sort of very similar. It wasn't necessarily, I do think that ChatGPT was the best here. And again, you can put in, you could have tweaked this prompt to be more specific to your company or more specific to your area. If you've got one already, you could say, this is my induction plan currently. Obviously making sure to remove all the confidential stuff from it. Make me a better one, or put it in a better order, or the person from HR is only available on day 7, so can you adjust the schedule for it? So it can do things like that if you've already got something in place. The other thing that I sometimes struggle with is creating sort of agendas or creating sort of like outlines of things. So I asked them all to create an agenda for the first DE&I committee meeting. So ChatGPT obviously knows exactly what DE&I is, so that's a bonus. And did give welcome introductions, people and goals, purpose and goals. Sorry, a review of the charter. Presumably there is a charter if one exists, and they see there's a link there. So both 1 and 2 have got footnotes. So number 1 was like why diversity still matters from the Harvard Business Review, and 2 is creating, implementing a diversity and inclusion charter. So it's actually giving me links in line, so I can actually link out to other articles on the internet, which I thought was quite interesting. Committee structure and roles, setting goals and objectives, giving a rough timeline for each of these things as well. So yeah, it's got a 9-step agenda. Obviously, I can't remember exactly how long it is, but you can add up the minutes yourself to tell you how long it is. And it tells you what meeting materials you might need ahead of time, with plenty of links to sort of other topics. So even if you didn't really want the agenda, you just wanted to find the links in a structure, I think that is something that Google still struggles with, is that kind of like giving you the context for why you're just searching for something. And again, sort of like moving on to Bard was very weak on this. It's given me a 5-step agenda with not a lot of detail in it. Now, I suppose it is doing exactly what I said. I didn't say a comprehensive agenda with, lots of sub-bullet points and topics to cover. And I didn't really want to go into the detail of doing that all for me, doing that kind of like, I would like it in lots of detail with lots of subheadings and lots of this and lots of that, which you can do to create the perfect prompt. And obviously these things do save your prompts, but you can obviously keep them in a document or a share if you wanted to share them amongst the team of, this is what got me the best output for a best input. And again, Claude did give me a little bit more. So I decided I gave it the full prompt engineering that I did into ChatGPT. And it did give me a little bit better with some more ideas and some more links, but it still wasn't quite as good as ChatGPT for this one. So the one on the left of the screen at the moment is just the very basic one. And then I gave it some more supporting information. So prompts can be quite long. I think about half a page or so would be easily adequate. It's only when you get really, really long prompts that these products try to sort of cut them off. So you can give it a lot of background and a lot of reasoning if you wanted to try these things, if you wanted to give them a lot of information at the end. So onto some more stuff that I found sort of very recently this week. On the left is something called Headshot Pro. Basically, you can upload about a dozen selfies of any individual, and it will generate headshots. So you get 120 headshots for that $29. So if you've ever tried to negotiate an executive's time to get and stand them in the right place in different backgrounds with different ties on and different this, and then you just need a dozen selfies of them. And now that you can get 120 headshots, 3 unique locations per shot with a large selection of clothing. And for this one, there's a 2-hour turnaround. So have a look at some of these. They're quite good. But, if you've ever tried to find, a photographer on the right day to get headshots for all your executives and remember to them to build multiple outfits on the same day, and one in front of the plant pot over here and one in front of the cafe over there, I'd imagine $29 sounds quite appealing to save all of that faff. And there are quite a few others doing it as well, but this one seemed to be the one focused at businesses. And if you've got 50 people to do or 100 people to do, there are volume discounts I saw on this one. So it's you never need to do another photo shoot in person again. And the one on the right here is that kind of voiceovers. If you do sort of product demos or anything else like that, or whether you do sort of announcements or company announcements, you can actually get, I don't know how much voice you need to record. It's about a minute or so, I think. You can import your voice or someone else's voice and then generate audio from it. So if you've got an account on here, you get commercial rights usage. You can maintain an accent, nuances, and style. You get 100,000 characters per month included in this particular plan, which is a free one. So I thought, if you've got, again, trying to find a human with the right time and the right sort of patience to do a voiceover without making mistakes is quite difficult and time consuming. So I thought this was quite an interesting sort of and relevant thing for a certain niche of people here, definitely. So there are quite a few sort of tools like this around. So they're popping up all the time. Generally, you can try them for free, but and then some of them you can only can only export it if you pay some money. So there are at least, these are one-off fees generally, so they're probably easier to get buy-in for. How do you learn all this? So generally, I learn by experimenting. So what prompts work, as you see today, try them across the different tools. What works, what doesn't, what prompts do work. Asking them. So, asking ChatGPT, what prompts work best? Or if I was to do, the final output, what one prompt would get me here? And then Twitter and LinkedIn. There's loads of people to follow. There's loads of people not worth following too. You'll just have to try them out and see if they suit your style of learning. There's quite a few people I've unfollowed. Quite a few people trying to monetize now rather than just sort of give you information. But the couple of these here. So the bottom left, there's news and product news. So you can see here, sort of this week, Levi's is testing AI generated clothing for models. So again, it's that kind of, at the moment, Levi's only does one model. There's one model on their website, that's it. But with AI generated clothing models, you'll see someone who's more representative of how you look, what your size is, whether your height or your body size. You can actually see what it's going to look like on you before just ordering them and hoping. And I dare say lots of other people are going to sort of try this out. Plus, if you add in augmented reality with the Apple glasses, I dare say Apple glasses plus things like Levi's, you could actually try them on without leaving your home. As long as you've got a mirror, you could probably see yourself in the clothes before you even go to the shop and buy them. And again, things like Zoom. I know Teams is doing it. Lots of other sort of third-party ones that I mentioned at the sort of conference do transcription and meeting notes and summarizations and actions. But now Teams with its Copilot and Zoom are going to do it natively inside their products. And that's from as you see the site on there, gpte.ai. They've got news and products and product listings and all that kind of stuff, which is where I found out of some of these, the headshot one and the other one I found out from looking at those and then going and looking at them and seeing reviews of elsewhere. And on the right here, there's actually, there's not many places where you can find them specific for executive assistants or business support professionals, but here gptwhisperer.com has 25 chat GPT prompts for executive assistants. If you want to dive into the whole detail, there's a whole Reddit subreddit on prompts and prompt engineering. So there's plenty of places to go and find information, or reach out to me on LinkedIn and I can help you. I've done that with a few people since the last session, sort of like how to use AI and how to apply it to your specific instance, whether that be financial services or, sort of legal profession, or just, how do I help my team get better? Sort of, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm sure you can find me. Just reach out and I'll help you. So I wanted to get through everything there because plenty of time for questions and answers, plenty of time for me to try things. So I've got the tools lined up and live. So I'm going to stop the share for now and see if there's any sort of questions or comments or something you want to go back into more detail on, because I've rushed through it because I know, listening to me for 35 minutes is probably torturous enough, but let's try and find out if anyone's got any particular questions or topics they want to dive deeper into. So I'm going to stop screen sharing so I can see all your faces.
Thanks, Paul. I'm going to stop the recording now as well, just in case anybody wants to share anything as well. So just for those of you watching, thank you so much, Paul. Really appreciate your time. Thanks for sharing that. And I hope people can play that back and take it lots away from that. So thank you so much. I'm just going to stop that now.